on this. And now, yes, what is your question?
I was just curious why when it's like turtle dot capital turtle and then random dot lowercase random, like how why is
Ah.
one capital and the other one isn't?
So I'm going to give you a question that's just, I can give you, so my first answer is going to give you more answers. I know that, and I apologize. And the reason is because this is creating a new object, and this is just a command. So this is a function, this is a constructor. What does that mean? This builds a new type of object. An object's like something that exists. It represents data and actions. So Bob is a turtle. It represents basically his positioning on the board as well as the kind of things you can do. Okay. Those that and this is just simply a special function that creates that object. We're going to again learn more about objects. I don't really mind blasting people with too much knowledge right now because again, I covered the stuff that's essential to know at the beginning of class. This is extra, right? So now there's a special convention. There's just convention here. So you can break this convention in Python. The convention is that if you use this special, is that you capitalize the special command, the special function used to make new objects. That's called a constructor. It's just convention to capitalize it. So we call it turtle.uppercase turtle rather than lowercase turtle. Okay. Now this is just a function, random. It generates a random number. It's a command. So yeah, we run that. Now import turtle. These two lines for import. Essentially, the Python programming language is mega huge. Here, let me click on modules. Look at all the stuff that's built into Python. Look at it. Don't bother trying to read it. Just look at the amount of stuff that's built into it. This is built into Python. And this is not including all the stuff we might decide to install on our own computer, extra Python modules we might install later. Such so you know that's something to take into account. So we don't want to necessarily load that all up into RAM, especially if we're loading it into a web browser page, which might slow that down. So Python by default loads a very initial small subset of things: the ability to print out stuff, the ability to write text, the ability to create variables, that kind of stuff, the very bare bones of programming. If you need stuff like web server, like you want to make a web server and you want to use all the stuff that's built into web server, you would import servers. You know, so you can do that in Python or just in general network stuff. It's actually very easy to just create a basic server running on your computer in Python in just a couple lines. It's kind of insane. The next no, they don't. They only remember what they worked on for the past 2 weeks. Guarantee it. Well, so I maybe sorry. No, I'll say of all the people I've met with programming, and that I would say probably my best friend. He is the one who the only one I know who basically can remember stuff off the top of his head. But he's been programming for a while, and again, he's an anomaly in that matter. So me and pretty much everybody else, like you saw that I looked up random. I haven't touched in like 3 months, in like a literal month. I was pretty sure that it was random, not random, but I like to double check. I really like double checking my stuff, so I did. And so when we were doing this, I double checked, and the quiz is generally based off of, I'll go over the quiz on Thursday, or what I expect for it, because I'm going to review what I have on there and make sure that I'm remembering it correctly. But the idea here for the quiz is that you're going to write a very basic program, very, very basic program. There's one multiple choice question, but most of the quizzes are basically going to be write a small program, or there's also some useful things in the book called Parson puzzles where you drag and drop the code into the proper places. So anyway, going back to importing. So import turtle says, I want to load the turtle module as well. Import random says, not everybody needs to generate random numbers, but I'd like to. So give me the bit of Python, load up the bit of Python code that does the random numbers too. So that's what the import does. And all the turtle dot says is that, hey, look in the turtle file for this thing called turtle. Look in the random file for the thing called random. Again, getting way ahead of ourselves here. But I want to say that basically, I want to, these questions are, and if you're intimidated by the questions, that's fine. Again, all the stuff I went over was already in part 1 of this lecture. That's all I care about you understanding today. But, this is, this bit over here, right, where we say, hey, this is the number of times I'd like something to run, change it to 10. This now will run the indented code 10 times. That's pretty awesome. This line over here, again, there's going to be emphasis on this more in the future. We take what's stored on the right. Sorry, we take what's on the right. So we evaluate this value on the right. We store it into the box on the left. So this essentially updates it by 1. We keep taking extra and adding 1 to it. And then this part where we just choose a random color based on a number between 0 and 1. Again, I'm just going to change this to, let's see, I'm going to change this to 50, make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to change the angle on this. So now I'm going to do back to a square. So 90. And let's just.
Why is random.random written 3 times in color?
Because the way a color works is that it's kind of like mixing a paint. In the sense that we are going to be we use red, green, and blues, and we mix a certain, and we mix it up a certain amount.
Gotcha. So you're picking like the numbers to make the color, like
yeah. So it's giving me a certain amount of red, a certain amount of green, and a certain amount of blue. Sid asks from a question that applies to a different programming language, which is, how do you close a for I in range loop? And the answer is, you stop indenting it. It's kind of, so Python is really cool because it says, hey, you know that indentation thing that you should do in other programming languages, which we haven't learned about yet necessarily. So yep. So it should be done soon. So it's waiting, and come on. Hope it doesn't crash because of the timeout. It crashed because of timeout. Shucks. All right, let me go ahead and reduce it to 10. So it runs it, and then done, right? So the indentation is what is important when we start working with loops and if statements and other blocks of code. So indentation really matters in Python. And again, indentation is just kind of this space, all the spaces before it. The text is literally inside the for loop. And again, what is a for loop? It's just a way of doing repetition. We learn those in great detail, and those won't come up until chapter 7. So a couple weeks. And again, as you can see, we talk about also color there. And we're going to talk about it with regards to pictures. Again, I like the visual learning aspect of this. All right, so now that it's almost time for us to go, I would like to ask, is there anybody who would like to show off what they have?
I could, even though it's not.
Yeah, you go ahead and share your screen.
It's not much except for this.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it's very, yeah. So what's great about turtles is that you can make very complex polygons and very complex shapes just by doing a bunch of repetitive code like that. So it's very nice to draw those things that are really hard to draw or really tedious to draw in, on paper. Does anybody else want to show what they have?
I can show mine.
Sure. And as far as submitting it, guess what? If you've run your code, it's submitted.
So
Nice.
cube.
So you did a nice. That is really cool. Really, really cool.
I wish I was smart enough to know how to do that.
I was thinking the same thing. I wish I was. I'm very bad at doing. My artistic skills are limited to are pretty much in the audio area. So if you ask me to draw anything, ain't gonna happen. I can do stuff. I can do like spirals and stuff and other complicated kind of shapes in Python because I've read examples and figured those out. But so one question I'm going to be that I like asking in my quizzes later on when we do turtles is here's an image, right? Let's see. Yeah, here's an image, right? Draw which of the, arrange the code so that it produces the image, right? So I give you the code, it's all scrambled up, right? So all the lines are scrambled up. Please, drag and drop the lines of code into the appropriate place to give me the output. Make sense? And now why drag and drop? Because I can auto-grade it that way. It's easier to auto-grade it that way rather than making you write it, because then there's like literal infinite number of ways you can write it.
Can I share my drawing?
Go ahead. Long as
Okay.
Mhm.
Behold, the color changing turtle and also the color changing circle by definition.
I am whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just whelmed.
Just regular whelmed.
It is very Bill Wirtz,
It is, yeah.
which if you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, you should check out Bill Wirtz's YouTube channel. It is a man who is definitely skilled working as though he is someone with no skill. It's amazing. Yes, History of Japan is classic. But he's got all these just random music videos that are just kind of, that look like they're done with MS Paint, but then you look at them and they're done actually quite intricately. We'll learn how to do circles later, but basically the easiest ways there's a circle command. There's also just simply, moving 1 degree at a time, moving one forward 1 pixel and then moving right by 1 degree. Mm-hmm. So you can speed up. Yep, there's a bunch of ways you can do about it. I see people have been reading the documentation. That makes me really happy. So, not that it's your job to make me happy, of course. but I'm very glad. All right, so I'm glad everybody had fun. Tomorrow on Thursday, I'll go over the quiz. I'll go over like the way the quizzes work. Give you some pointers about how to avoid some of the technical difficulties with the quiz. You do experience technical difficulties. Guess what? There's a channel on Discord for you to just shoot at me that I have an issue with my quiz. Please help me. But we'll go over what the expectations for the quiz are. Not too hard. Don't worry about it. And then we're going to have an exercise all about estimation. Doing really quick and dirty, crazy estimations, such as like how many gallons flow out of the Mississippi River every day. Estimating big questions like that. All right. So class is dismissed. I'm stopping the recording.